Welcome back to another episode of Behind B2B Onboarding, where we analyze digital B2B customer onboarding processes. I'm Jesper Kask of Roaring.io, and today we'll be looking at the onboarding flow of a well-known provider of digital financial services who promises swift onboarding process on their website. For legal purposes, some information has been masked, left out, or recreated with new design. And before we jump in, this breakdown will show you a few examples of recreated print screens of the onboarding process, but not all of the steps required to become a customer, as they were just too many to be featured here actually. So let's check it out. We'll start with sort of the original sign up page. There's a nice clean start to the onboarding actually, informative as to what you get when you sign up, such as a business account, company cards, and an unlimited number of users, for example. It also entails a description of what information will be required in the next step, which is good because the user can then be a bit more prepared and gather the information beforehand, making the onboarding a little bit faster probably. So we choose to create a company account here for a registered company. Entering our work email is the next step, with the possibility of a Google connection, which is quite nice. And then we move on from there to given the phone number, our work phone number, which is described to be for two-factor authentication purposes here. So no problem there. Creating a password, and this is interesting because we chose to sign up with Google, so no password should be required actually. But yeah, we'll go along with that and move on and show you guys a few glimpses of the rest. But really, so far so good. No obstacles yet to climb in this onboarding. And moving on, this is probably where the flow starts becoming a little bit annoying and where I believe it's taken in sort of the wrong direction from the provider side of things. There's no automated data collection here as to my personal details, meaning I have to enter my name. And moving on from my name, I have to enter my home address for some reason, even though this is a company account. I find this quite strange actually, why they would require that. But anyway, this is probably where they could be using an e-identification solution instead. It's not all that big of a hassle for me to enter my personal details, but in order to correctly connect me to a company, as well as verifying my identity, of course, they could be using an e-identification solution instead. In Sweden, for example, a mobile bank ID solution, which is quite easily integrated to these kind of flows. So they could collect my personal information and details, present it to me, make sure it's accurate, and then also they could collect and present companies I'm linked to. For example, if I'm a board member of a company or if I'm have a signatory right somewhere. Just as an example. And then provide me with a list of companies to choose from if there are several companies that I'm linked with, so to speak. And as far as company details, if I don't have any company engagements, such as board membership or as a CEO or whatever, they could ask for a company ID entry, which could then trigger automated data collection on the company, providing an autofill of company name, address, date of incorporation, etc., which they now ask of me manually instead, creating a slow and frustrating experience, which is sort of the first takeaway from this part of the flow. And the second thing about it is that they actually ensure data quality by collecting it from reliable sources instead of having me enter it manually and risking it being incomplete or wrong. And moving on from basic details, which is collected in sort of the middle segment or middle part of the onboarding process, we start to find manual input fields, a lot of them actually, and quite a few that have recurring questions or at least very similar to what we've answered already. For example, where business is conducted in and where the business is registered, for example, which could easily be auto-filled or auto-pre-populated based on the company ID that I put in previously in the flow. Some information seems to be verified or checked in the background as we try to enter the wrong details, just for fun. For example, the date of incorporation. If I try to enter the wrong date of incorporation, they actually tell me it's wrong, which is good, even though I'm not sure why they would require to have it entered manually in the beginning, but they verify it anyway in the background, which is good. But some don't actually, and like industry, for example, meaning data quality is at risk here due to faulty entries. And seeing that most fields are not verified in the background, there's actually quite a large risk of poor data quality, which would then be a problem for them to verify or double check manually or correct if needed. Also, no verification is conducted as to the legitimacy of my account creation. Am I allowed to create this account? Do I have signatory rights for this company if I want to create a paid account later? This is only the free account creation, but they still make me enter a lot of data about myself and the company. So in my opinion, they should either want to slim this free onboarding down, reducing data input requirements, or verify that I'm actually allowed to do this. Should I be a significant owner or shareholder, for example, a beneficial owner or a director, they could easily collect and verify this in the background with better data accuracy than asking me about it, especially if I have to give up someone else who's a shareholder, for example, or a beneficial owner. This could easily be a case of faulty data entry. And secondly, they ask for category and also the subcategory of my business, which is also given when registering a business in Sweden, for example, where they know that my company is from in this part of the onboarding flow, meaning they should actually be collecting it in the background instead of asking me about it. And this is the thing about automated data collection. The more you can avoid manual data entry and input fields, the better in terms of customer experience. The onboarding process would be a lot smoother and quicker. And also, given that you can collect and verify data from reliable sources. They later asked me about my website, which is, in my opinion, not that relevant. They use it as a way of verifying that this is my business, and that's not a good way of verifying it. That's just weird in a sense to ask for. Moving on, they ask about who my customers are, how I sell my product or service, and some of this information might be relevant to them. Some of the information could be collected easily from the company activity registered with the government body, for example. So once again, a lot of manual data entry and input fields, ruining the experience of this onboarding. Moving on from there, they collect information which is relevant and difficult to collect otherwise automatically, which is how much money will I be sending each month, and how many transactions, and what's the size of the average transaction, and what's the size of the total transaction I will be making, and so on. This is perfectly fine, and it's probably required by law, I'm guessing, since it's a financial service. Then at the end of the onboarding flow, I actually get asked once again where I conduct business, which is intriguing because if I have a company registered in Sweden and no companies in a group, for example, they should at least be pre-populating this field with Sweden and a possibility to add countries outside of Sweden. Now I have to add it from the beginning. So this part of the onboarding process can also be improved. Small things, but just something that could really improve the customer experience, in my opinion. So sort of to summarize this onboarding process in what you've seen now, like I said previously, there's a lot of fields and a lot of print screens that we're not showing because it would actually just be too much. I believe, sort of as a summary, that the onboarding process was promised on the company website to be swift, but it turns out when we go through the entire process, it takes a lot of time. It requires a lot of information to be entered manually. And a lot of the information I also need to double check with other people in the company. It's not the information that I know from the beginning. So I have to double check with other people, making it even more frustrating and takes a lot of time actually. It's very time consuming, this process. And on a whole, it's pretty straightforward as to what I have to do. But the customer experience is really poor in my opinion. A lot of this could be solved by automated data collection and verification, but also pre-populating and auto-filling fields based on the data collection. So that's just a quick breakdown of this onboarding process. Hope you guys enjoyed it.